Hey everyone, I'm Zach Eccles. Currently I live in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Just a hop, skip, and a jump up that way. And I'm a producer.
I'm Angela Root. I am in Asheville, so a little extra skip from here. And I am a producer as well.
Well, my name is Thomas Stroud. I'm here locally in Greenville. I've been producing for about 9 years now, kind of all over the Southeast, but relocated to Greenville about 2 years ago.
Cool.
That's it. That's the reason. Thank you so much for coming out. Greatly appreciate it.
Good sound check. Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
So first question is just kind of introduce a little more introduction. Like, how'd you get into what role do you play, and how'd you get into that, or maybe why you got into it?
Yeah. So obviously, I'm sure a lot of people will. Producing is kind of this big blanket term that gets thrown around a lot. Every project I've realized you do something totally different, regardless of if it's with the same company when it comes to producing, the same people. Literally the movie right after one that you just did, it can change. So I've done line producing. I've done just regular old producing, which again is more so the logistics and the paperwork. And in the commercial sense, primarily what I think I am is a liaison between the creatives and the clients. A lot of the times the clients are like, we want this crazy thing that's impossible. And then the creatives are like, we want this crazy thing that's also impossible. And then your job is to kind of go, okay, both those ideas are bad. Let's put them together and make them not bad.
I have been producing since like 2012, maybe. However many years that is, 11. I actually went to school for textiles and fashion design, and I went up to New York, and I ended up in a photo studio, and from there, they have studio managers and producers on set, and it just kind of came really naturally. And I like to tell people it really became naturally for me because I was in the service industry for like 15 years before that. So it's just like one of those things, you're always doing something, you're trying to tell people yes, but you're also being like, but we can't really do that. It's kind of like a yes with a no type thing, like the
yes
client
and
side. Yeah, exactly. And I do some commercials, I do some docu-series, I've done an independent film recently. And it's basically whoever calls that needs somebody right now is kind of how I've been getting all of my work, but
like I said, I've been producing for about 9 years now. I've been in the production industry since college. I originally went to school for finance, and then realized I didn't want to be a CPA, and so I changed to art, as you do. And so once I got into kind of the filmmaking industry, I was working on some small projects down in Columbia, South Carolina, and realized that I am not the best videographer or DP. I'm not the most creative person, but I have an idea of what it takes to make a production happen. Like, I'm very logistic mindset, and with my finance kind of original starting in the productions or the college, my focus was always like, hey, I want to make cool stuff, but I also want to make a living. And so marrying like art and work and making like, how do I make my art make me money? That's kind of where I fell in. And so I started in the industry, really in the commercial side of it. And so I've been doing commercials since 2016. Worked on 2 films last year, mainly actually as an AD, but kind of co-produced it as well. But a lot of kind of reason why I got into it was I would rather know a really good DP and a good director than be one myself, just because I know my skill sets are not specifically on the creative side solely. Like, I want to see how the sausage is made. I want to know everything from soup to nuts, from the start of the project to the end of the project. And a producer kind of is that glue that holds up all that together. So it just kind of fit how I view things. So
You guys are free to ask questions anytime you want to.
I have a question.
yeah.
So you said you work in like commercial work. So when somebody hires you, I don't know, to shoot like a pillow commercial,
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What, like
I've done
where-
stuff for Serta, so I understand.
She's like, I'm fine,
This is the right
I'm
guy to talk
I
about.
get you. Yeah. I've literally filmed a mayonnaise commercial, so you can throw anything at me.
Okay. Like, what is your first move? Like,
Yeah, so I guess it depends on who is reaching out to me. So sometimes, and this works with film as well. Sometimes I'm an independent, and sometimes I'm with a production company. So for a large part of my career, I was with a production company, and so we had clients either on retainer or we had relationships with agencies. So when I was living in Tennessee, I was working with a production company, and they were essentially the go-to production company for like an ad agency for Serta mattresses. And so Serta would come to us and they say, hey, we have an idea, go make the idea. And so it's then on us to be like, all right, your idea either sucks, as Zach says, or it's like, hey, we can plus this up, and then it's my job to like put a number to that. Now, as an independent now, like I've been freelancing for the past 3 years now, I have to rely on my Rolodex of people that I know, and a lot of cold call, a lot of sales, which I don't love as a creative, as a person in this industry. I don't love doing sales, but you kind of get into a rhythm of who is reaching out. And so a lot of it's word of mouth. Like I have a very niche, how do you pronounce that? Either one of them, niche, kind of skill set, and I do a lot of like alcohol and beverages, like food and beverage. That's my main kind of focus when it comes to commercials, because I've done so many of those. And so you kind of get known as a reputation for what your skill sets are. I also do a lot of comedy work, and so those two don't really overlap, but when they do, it's like Liquid Death, which is that brand. I've done some ads for Liquid Death actually, and that's kind of like the perfect marriage of like food and beverage and comedy, and I love those projects. So when it comes to like how do those people reach out, it's usually, or who reaches out, it's usually like a production company or somebody from an ad agency is looking for a specific person with the skill set that I have. I don't know if that answered that question.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Can you guys carry off of that and
Yeah.
talk more to the, like you just mentioned, the skill set? What is the skill set of a producer, or what are some tools of the trade?
Mostly getting everything done. In the end of the day, you're in charge of it all, and it goes back to you. Like if you're on set and something happens, something will always happen that's not planned for, and it's your job to like be the level-headed person to be like, okay, give me a couple minutes and let's figure out how to fix this, how to problem solve this. It's really, I think it's just, and a big part of it is also keeping up like crew morale, like making sure the people that you're working with are happy, because if you don't have a happy crew, like they're not going to do the job for you as well. Like
they
that's,
won't want to work for you again.
yeah, exactly. And you want to keep these people happy, which is usually food helps a
A
lot.
hot meal and Welch's fruit snacks.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Welch's are great. Yeah.
Just bought some today.
Yeah. Jerky as well.
Yeah, sugar-free Red Bull. Yep,
Yeah,
that's
sugar-free Red
necessities.
Bull. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes you can get the Celsius if your budget's a little bit higher.
Oh, shoot. Big ballers over here. Okay.
Starbucks run maybe. I don't know, but
That's awesome.
yeah, that's kind of where I always like land, is like making sure that my crew is happy so that they are like, doing a good job and enjoying working for us and the client.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, again, bouncing off what they've said, it's about having an intuition when it comes to, hey, client has said these are the things that they want. What else are they wanting that they don't know they want yet?
Yep.
For instance, I did one recently where it was an all-day outside shoot, and nobody had thought of, hey, we need a place to put people when they're not shooting, or crew, or anybody. Originally, the plan was they're just going to be outside all day on a 95-degree day.
Oh,
Don't you love it?
And so instead, I was like, okay, well, that sounds great. Intuitively, though, I was like, okay, obviously nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to be outside all day. Let's find somewhere close enough that's air conditioned where they can just go in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, then on the day, we had 10 of the 10 people from client show up. And so if they would have had to stand outside as well,
Jeez.
obviously that would have been a terrible day. But again, it's just having that intuition of this is what you've said you've needed. What do you need after that?
Yeah.
What are the things that you're not thinking of in the moment? What are the things that the creatives are not going to think of? And what are the things that the client, who this might be their first commercial, this might be their 100th commercial that they're doing. What are the things that they're not asking for that are already supposed to be in place?
Right.
Just making sure that everyone's happy, coming from that service industry mentality. You as a server, when I did that, you always needed to know when somebody needed something before they did, because if they had to ask, then you're screwed. And that's just kind of how it goes with producing as well. It's you need to know more than the client, more than the creatives, and then I don't usually put my opinion into it. I just keep the facts and the logistics in place.
Does that come with experience?
Yeah.
What you're saying?
Yeah, I think it comes with experience, and not even necessarily.
Like, there's not like a handbook that's like.
No. There's not a handbook that's like, this is everything you need.
I wish.
But think about it this way too. I mean, I didn't start off producing. I started off in the grip and electric world, and we got, pardon my French, shit on a lot. And so it was the first time I produced ever. I was like, okay, what do the grip and electricians need that they never get? They need tents. They need extra sunscreen because they're going to be outside, and they need like a secret stash of fruit snacks because they never get them, or they do and they get too many. But it's those small things. The more that you're on set, the more that you focus on a new department every single time, you pick up on things and if you listen, that's all it takes. Just listen to them, even if they're not talking to you. Crew members love to gossip when the cameras are not rolling, and sometimes when the cameras are rolling. They love to gossip, they love to talk. If you want to be a producer and you want to kind of get to that step where you can look at somebody and go, hey, I know exactly what you need before you know you need it. Just listen to them. Talking beforehand, what are the things that they complain about on every other set? How do you make sure that doesn't happen on your set?
So it sounds like a lot of logistical decisions, right? Are you ever able to do creative decisions, or like you said, you're in between everyone and you're doing the logistics of
It definitely depends on the project. The first time that I get hired by somebody, I'm not going to come in and be like, hey, this idea is terrible. We're scrapping it. Here's what I want to do instead. But when you kind of work with groups of people enough times, or they might even come to you and say, hey, we want a creative producer. We want somebody that is going to not just be hey, here's the, pen and pencils of it, but here's the color pencils and here's the crayons and, maybe an origami over here.
So like the background that you mentioned would help in that kind of situation, right? Because like you said, you had DP experience. You
For
were
sure.
into it, but you knew what these things were and you were doing them.
Yeah. You want to ask a question before I go on with that?
I was going to comment.
Okay, yeah. So what I would like to say, like, when I say I'm not a creative, I mean like I'm not like a writer or an art director. Specifically in like the commercial world, so what I know more of, but like production is not a part of creative. Creative is a completely separate department. So you have writers, art directors, designers, all those are like separate from like production. And so as a producer, it's my job to take an idea from the creatives and make it a reality at whatever cost. So like if you want a starburst to blow through this screen and have CGI stuff all over the place because your art director wanted that and think it's a cool idea, I have to figure out how to do that. Whether that's we can, but it's going to cost you $250,000 to do that, and our budget is $7.
There it is.
That's now problem solved. And so you're not direct. I'm not. You guys may be, but as a producer, I'm not the one coming up with the ideas a lot of the times. But with the experience, I've been doing this for 9 years. I've probably done 12 different food and beverage, specifically about a can of something. Like I know how to make that look good, and I know creatively what I can bring in to help like allow this piece to be different than all the other ones in the space. And sometimes that comes into what I've really like picked up on is if I'm doing a job that is a comedy that has like comedic stuff to it, I want to bring in a stand-up comedy, like a stand-up comic, because they understand timing. And when you're in an ad that is 6 seconds or 15 seconds or 30 seconds, all of it is about timing. It's about pacing and how this works in the edit. Now film, it's a bit different. Film, you have more time to breathe, you have more fat in that cut of meat. I still think it's beneficial to have someone who is constantly writing and coming up with funny stuff. And so when I say I found my niche in the comedy space, is like I've learned that through trial and error, through having a script that was really funny on paper, and then on film was not funny at all, and then on the editing floor was not funnier, if that's even a word. And so we tried something new. We brought in a stand-up comic to just write riff jokes on set. And now anytime I do something that is comedic, I hire a comedy writer or a stand-up comic to come in, whether that's to build up morale, to just lighten the mood on set, whether we use those jokes or not, it's funnier to have that. But sometimes it's like, hey, this is going to be beneficial for the project as a whole. And so does that make me creative? I don't know, but it makes me that's something that I've just picked up over the years, and I have my creative thumbprint on that because I know what person to hire, to be honest with you. My biggest weapon in this industry is my Rolodex of people who I've worked with and who I want to work with. And so like a DP and a director who only does like drama stuff probably isn't good for a comedy, for like Fanta. Like they're two very different brands and two very different styles, but I need to know both of them because there may be something that's like a combination of the two, and how fun would that be? That'd be amazing. I'd have so much fun. And so they may be the perfect fit to know both of those, and it could be like a director DP duo that have two opposite worlds, and that's really fun to do. But to kind of speak on what you were talking about of having the answer to the question that they haven't asked yet. An example that's like real life that I've like dealt with this. I hired, and this is again, I didn't do this, but I hired the right person to do this, so I take credit for it.
As you should.
As you should. Yeah. I worked with a wardrobe stylist on a NutriBullet ad, and our boards had like all this pop color, like bright yellows, oranges, and whatever. And it was gonna be super, super fun. But our background was like blue, and then on paper it looks awesome. And so this wardrobe stylist went out and bought all those bright colors, and then we get on set and we put the actors in these bright colors on our blue set, and it's just like, oh, this is a lot. It's a lot of color. And so we had to pivot kind of last minute to make all of the wardrobe gray. And luckily, I had a wardrobe stylist who's been in the industry 20 plus years, and she figured out that I'm gonna buy exactly what you asked for and the exact opposite, just in case it doesn't work out. So again, I don't take credit for that. That is completely on her. Her name is Chelsea. She's awesome. She's out of Atlanta. I'll give you her contact. She's great. But that's like a real life scenario of like, you think something is great on paper and the director may be asking for this one thing. But she knew that this one thing is yes, what you asked for, but also probably may not work well on set because the set is also very bright blue, and the fruit in the blenders are also very bright and colorful. So it may be good to have the actors in something that's a bit more muted to allow everything else to sync. So we had to pivot last minute, and luckily she had all the stuff there. So that's kind of like a real world application of like, what does it mean to like have the answer to a question that somebody asked for? It's hard to like theoretically think of that, but it's kind of a real world application for it.
And I think going back to like the creative producing side, I think when you work on smaller things, you get a lot more into the creative side. So like I've worked on a lot of docu-series where it's basically I am the person that's doing it all. I'm the person that's like sitting down, doing the interview questions and like guiding the talent to like get to like the points that I want them to say. And then in the edit, I'm like, this is the way you kind of want to cut it together. So I think, you know, there can be a role where you are doing the logistics and the creative producing, but a lot of time it's a lot of work when you're doing both those things. And a lot of times it's those smaller, lower budget docu-series reality type shows instead of like commercials. Like in commercials, ideally you associate that with money and you want to hire everybody that you can so you have the right team. Like you're not completely doing every single thing. But yeah.
There's a perfect world where you have like 4 or 5 producers on the job and you get to divvy it out, like an executive producer, producer, co-producer, line producer, supervising producer, post-producer. Like hopefully you get to work on jobs that have that. I still have yet to do that.
Oh yeah,
But
those are
yeah, those are the Marvel, the big job, the big films, and
yeah.
the big things. Like
Mhm.
you have a team of producers that are handling all these things.
They all have very different jobs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And,
but they're all just called
Where do you
producers.
yeah, and don't step on those toes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say, like as a justification for anybody who has this question, everything you could think about in a film or a commercial, there's a role and a person that should be responsible for that.
Mhm.
So like you don't have to carry all the weight. If you're like someone who has an idea and like you're a director, it shouldn't be your job to worry about the electricity on set. There's the person who is in charge of that and should be in charge of that. And so as a producer, it's my job to take that weight off of the director's shoulders and say, hey, whatever you need, I got. Like as a producer, it's our job to support the ideas of the director and be that supporting, like, I don't know if you want to call that third leg of a tripod, like just to be that person for them, and to make sure that they're not worrying about things on set, that we're taking care of all those things for them. One of the things I was told, I mean, we jokingly wear all black, but like wear black, stand in the back, kind of a person, kind of a deal. That's like producers. I'd like to take credit, but like we're not supposed to take credit, but we take all the blame. And that's why like we want to do this. Like I want all the weight and all the pressure to be on me, because if it fails, I want to feel that.
Mhm.
If it's successful, cool. I'm gonna praise the director and the writers because it's their idea. And so I would say if you want to be a producer, you're gonna have that personality of like, I want to be in the back. I don't want to be seen. I want that pressure, and I thrive in high pressure situations and environments. I don't want the limelight. I don't
Yeah.
want to be in front of the camera or like that main person that's being interviewed on the red carpet. But you want to support and bring those people up and have good morale on set and really just like care for the crew members.
And then also with what you just said about like, you know, it's our fault if it happens.
Yeah.
Like the part of like taking blame is like there's nobody wants to hear why.
Right.
You just take blame and just keep going.
It sounds like retail and service. Exactly.
Yeah, nobody
That
wants to
seems
hear
like
why.
that. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry that this thing happened.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't control. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, producers, when done right or done to me and what it seems like to all the people sitting here, what a producer, when they play their cards right and they fit their role that they're supposed to, they're a team player.
Mhm.
It really is like, hey, we are going to do this thing together. I am not in charge of I'm in charge of so much, and yet I don't want the limelight, the spotlight. I don't want anyone to go, wow, you produced the shit out of that. It's like, you will
Cool.
never know. Yeah, it's like, wow, thanks.
Cool.
Do you know what that means? Because again, producing
My mom
is
says
so.
it.
My mom doesn't even say that. It's fine.
Oh.
It's fine.
She doesn't know what producing is.
No, no one does.
Exactly.
We're here.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
why we're here.
Yeah.
Shed light on
And still, even now, there will be a day when one of us will be asked something that is apparently somebody says is producing, and we're like, is it?
it. Yeah.
Because it's just, producing really is just like a catch-all term
Mm-hmm.
for people that have kind of been there from the beginning.
What is
They-
line? Oh, sorry.
They even give like associate producer credit for anybody that may have had any kind of hand in helping with the film. So even if you just help them, one lady opened up her house. She's like, oh yeah, you can film here. And she didn't charge for it. She just thought it was so much fun. So they give her associate producer credit.
Yeah.
Just 'cause.
What is line producing then?
Line producing, he's going to be the best person to ask about that. But it's all about
Money.
budget and making
Yes.
sure where it
There's
goes.
a lot of lines on set.
Yeah. So,
Like
And
trade
stay in
them?
them.
Like,
that's so funny. So, have you guys seen like a call sheet where you have
Yeah.
like everybody on it? And so there's a theoretical and like a line in my budget that's like, all right, there's above the line people and below the line people. And above the line people are non-day players essentially. So like our director, DPs sometimes fall into that. A lot of times they do all of the creative staff. Sometimes the producers, depending on who you work with, are above the line. So those are people that like have a blanket either project cost or like a fee, and then everything else below that are day players who have a day rate. So like my G&E, my grip, and like all of those people, hair and makeup, they're below the line. And the line producer's job are those people and making sure all of that is accounted for. So they're working with the producers above them, the ADs with them, to kind of get an understanding of like, all right, how many days are we filming? What's our scripts for each day? Who's needed on each day? And detail upon detail of like, all right, you're 650 a day, you're 500 a day, you're 400 a day, you're 850 a day. All of this costs blanket amount a day. You're staying at the Spring Hill Suites. You're staying at this other, like all of the anything you can think about from the logistics side of people below that line in the budget. A line producer's job is to do that. And so you bring in like an associate producer to help out a lot of times with that. Co-producers as well. A lot of times you have like a couple line producers on a job. Production coordinators, unit production managers, UPMs, all of those people kind of associate or assist and help out the line producer. Because as you can probably tell, it's a lot of work to get done. Like I needed to schedule 11 hotel rooms for somebody or cast and crew to be on set. I have that and have to deal with everything else on set. So I'd love to bring in like a production coordinator to help organize that stuff.
You asked about creative jobs. That's a creative job.
Yeah.
Put the zero.
Genuinely,
The comma? Is
Yeah.
a comma somewhere?
Right.
if you look at a true like line budget, there's a reason that most of them are behind some sort of paywall, like your movie magics or Airtable is one that I found actually had a really good and comprehensive one that's free. And if you want to see how incredibly sadistic we all are, just look at a line budget that is not filled out.
Have you seen the AICP bid estimate that Ratbug put out?
So if you want to just feel really bad for us,
That's awesome.
and
I love it.
Yeah, just like look up a filled out line
Yeah.
production budget,
Yeah.
and the numbers that you don't even think about.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it comes from being on set, and even times every new project, there's a new line item added that you've never thought of before. I'm sure with your 9 years in, you can constantly go, I didn't even think about the fact that I needed a line budget for just a guy to watch the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's real, by
that
the
is
way.
one thing
That's
that like
genuinely real.
that you've both have probably dealt with this, especially working on outside jobs. It's like I never knew I needed to know who the porta potty people are in Virginia, but like I had to find a porta potty because we shot in a field for 2 days, and I needed a porta potty, and I needed that porta potty picked up, placed, and then like taken away. And it's a nightmare, but like that's like you don't know you need that until you're on set. You're like, oh, nobody has a place to go use the restroom, or changing rooms when you're on set like that and you're out in the middle of nowhere. I need some pop-up tents for some changing rooms for our actors. Air conditioning places. Like I've recently found out that like every budget or every project I'm on now, like I'm gonna buy a Wi-Fi hotspot because I never trust anywhere to have convenient Wi-Fi for the people that need it. A portable printer on set just in case I need to print new scripts or new budgets or not budgets, new schedules for the new budgets on the day. So new schedules for the day or like different things like that. Like those are like again little things I want to add in each time. Gas prices always change, especially with the IRS. So like sometimes it's 58 cents a mile. This year it's been 65 cents a mile. Those are things that you like again to factor into. So all those little small minute things that are not creative, but to me are so much fun to understand like again how the sausage is made. Like I'd love to know exactly how, like a Marvel movie is $250 million. Where does that money come from? Like where's it come from first and foremost, but also like who are you spending that on? And surprisingly, it's not on filming a lot of it. A lot of it's on the back end, whether it's like animation or VFX and things like that. The filming of it's actually like relatively inexpensive. And that's just because like I'm now on a movie where like the filming of the movie is probably only going to cost like $300,000, but the whole scope of the film is like $1.3 million. I'm like, oh, okay, I now understand where budgets come from and like how much actors get paid, and especially with these writer strikes going on, like and the actor strikes going on like that, is going to change over the next year as well of how much money I'm putting allocated toward those people.
So moving on.
Yeah.
We have commercials that you guys have been on and a few independent things. One thing, if you can't answer it, you don't have to. If it is on the narrative side, where you either have to find money and or distribute and market. That is another part of producer job sometimes, not all the time. You guys have anything to say on that?
No,
Yeah.
I've turned down a job because I'm like, I actually don't know how to do that. And
Yeah.
it goes back to kind of sales, like that
Yeah.
is all sales,
Yeah.
and I don't really enjoy sales. So,
Which is the
but it is,
love-
it's definitely, it's something that you have to just like go out and just like
Yeah.
talk to people
Yeah.
and try to get them to give you money. That's
Again,
it.
in that sense, when it comes to that, I've been on the side where it's like, how do we actually, cool, you came to me with a script, how do we sell that script? How do we, in the easiest way, the most condensed way possible, how do I lock somebody in an elevator for 5 minutes and go, I'm going to tell you about this movie and hopefully you're going to give me money? How do we do that? A few different ways, the pitch deck, of course. Like I've helped in the building of a pitch deck, building of an outline, building up production strategies to try to find that money. But also it relates back to what I said earlier, knowing that script better than the creatives there. Because what they think the script is, or what they know the script is to them, how do I then take such a personal story to this one specific person and go, okay, I have to be able to pitch that story that is definitely very personal to you and turn around and go, okay, this is a story that relates to everybody because X, Y, and Z. And finding those ways, again, it is all sales. It is taking something that might not be for everybody and making them think it is the movie that is going to unite the world, trying to figure out how to do that.
Yeah. On a practical sense, a lot of the times when you're in these films, I'm in the current proof talked this before. I'm currently in the process of doing one now. We want to lock in like our lead actors before we start like pitching to like get funding, because that's gonna allow us to carry weight to those pitch meetings. So for instance, like if I want Dennis Quaid in this romantic comedy movie, that's the first thing I want to reach out for. Like before I even reach out about locations and like timelines, like I'm gonna lock in Dennis Quaid because he's gonna be the reason I'm gonna get this movie funded. And that coupled with going back to what I said at the beginning, like the Rolodex of people that you know, reaching out to, all right, who is the professor of film at this college, and can I communicate with them and ask if they want to do some kind of fundraising event at the university to help independent filmmakers as a graduate of this school. Again, it's you're selling it, but reaching out to anybody and everybody that you know that could potentially affect the outcome of this film. And not saying like celebrities and like only fancy people with like big monies can like help fund films, but like even giving like producer credits to like family and friends and things like that who are like wanting to invest in your property, like it's a tax write-off for them, so things like that I'm in one now where like, all right, if I put in $30,000, that's going to give me a credit and potentially like a point on the back end. So if we sell this to distribution, I'm now going to get a residual on the back end for a percentage point because of my investment of whatever it is up front. And so having those conversations and being aware of all of those like terminologies of what percentage points on the back end are, what distribution rights are, and kind of understanding like all right, if you invest X amount percentage up front, it's going to give you this producer credit, and you're going to be on the credits list of all of this, and you'll be invited to the red carpet. You'll be invited to all these film screenings. People love that and want to be part of that, especially down here in the South where not a whole lot of movies are made in Greenville, South Carolina, or Asheville. I know Wilmington has some movies made and stuff, but like smaller towns and they're not like film specific. People want to be a part of that. So having those conversations with even like the Chamber of Commerce of each city as well, saying, hey, we want to film in your city. I'm in the talks with Anderson County right now to have a film made there. And so I don't know who to reach out to, but I'm going to reach out to the people that need to. And again, working with a team of producers is a whole lot easier than just a single person. So if there's a certain person you can partner with that you've done this in the past, or wants to join on the journey of carrying the load of reaching out to all these people, and whether that's printing out and mailing out flyers of like, hey, we're having a funder or investors or a donors event, going around and putting those in mailboxes or sending those out to the higher people and whatever companies are around your city. Those help and those matter. But I will say too about funding, specifically on the financial side of it, is understanding that an LLC is super big. You need to have your business and litigation put into place to receive money for these projects. So you as an individual cannot receive like these donations to fund a project. It's good to have protection by an LLC. That way, if anything does happen, like you're not at fault, your business is at fault, or the film is at fault, and so you're just covered from that standpoint, and you can accept a lot more donations from that standpoint. That's one of the weird things, again, that you don't realize that you need to know
Until you learn.
until you learn that you need it, whether that's insurance and things like that.
You guys have really sold this as being one of the best jobs on
It's
set.
amazing.
I love it.
All things
I love
considered.
it.
So can you answer, how does someone get into it?
No, absolutely not.
Like,
Yeah, no.
what are some of the PA positions, or what's the
interesting.
path of to go, or what
So-
do you have to have to really know? Because the communication, you have to be willing and wanting to
Yeah.
talk to people.
Again, I think my path is so different just in general. I mean, from the beginning of, you know, most of the time when you think of a grip and electrician, they're not a person that likes going into an office. Like, they are very much like the doers, the go-getters, like, and then on the flip side, you know, a lot of producing, as much as we've talked about it, being very, very involved. Sometimes that involvement means sitting at your computer for 12 hours, just staring at an Excel spreadsheet going, God, I hope this fixes itself. But
So would that be one thing? Is like you should have done other roles on
yeah,
set.
I would say going into it, I think you have to have a baseline understanding
Yep.
of what everyone does. Even if you haven't played every single part on set, obviously that's going to be very, very hard to do that because there are so many. Have a baseline understanding of their needs and what is expected of them, because as a producer, you're going to need to know those things. You're going to need to know what, if I bring on this person, here's what they need. And that's just going to make you a lot faster with it too. Thomas has talked a lot about his Rolodex of people. On top of the Rolodex of people, he now knows what is expected of each person as well. He's not going to bring on, like he said, a drama director for a comedy role unless, for whatever reason, that's where the comedy comes from.
Right.
But he also knows, okay, this project, I don't necessarily need to bring somebody that has 30 years of experience and that's going to come with this cost point.
Good point.
So it's a matter of trying to balance everything. Get to know people. Talk to new people on set. Listen in. Try to learn as much as possible. I think what got me into producing personally was the fact that I wanted to just learn as much as possible. And I was, you know, the old saying of be a sponge on set. And then eventually it took up so much information that people started asking me questions. And then I realized I could charge for that. So I did. And that's what producing is. No. Kind of, but not always.
Actually,
It's your knowledge.
That's a good point. So as a producer, you make money, right? So
Yeah.
how do you fit in the budget?
Yeah.
How are you, right? How are you paying your bills,
Yeah.
right? How,
Mhm.
I'm not asking like your income. I'm asking like, you
That's
know,
fine.
your 20% or whatever. I don't know. That would be-
Again, I think it depends on every project as well. Like some projects you get contracted out for, where other projects, which I'm also a part of a project that's a little bit more of a passion project, there is money that will be coming in, but I'm doing a lot of the pre-production work pro bono for points on the back end because I do believe in the project.
And that's in writing, I'm sure.
Yeah,
right?
yes,
You can
absolutely.
arrange it and that's-
Oh, yeah. Everything, especially as a producer, just put it in writing.
You get to pocket
Even
the
if it's a
remainder
text.
pay-
Yeah.
Petty
Even
cash
after
is
you
just
like
yours.
yeah.
No, so again, it fluctuates per
Yeah.
project. Every project is totally different.
Yeah.
One project that You know, a commercial project will be a lot different than an independent film, which will be a lot different than, you know, a standard feature film in general.
I guess a better way to frame it is who's deciding like where are
We
you
are.
deciding what you're being
Absolutely.
paid?
Yeah.
Are they deciding like like the director's deciding a lot of things, right?
Right.
That's
Well,
what
it's
I'm
just
trying to
it's in the negotiations kind of, and there is
Okay.
like the same as how there's like crew rates, like there's standard rates for things that you
Mhm.
just like know there is a standard rate for like a producer, like a commercial producer,
Cool.
you know, and for like a documentary producer, it's kind of, and then you just kind of negotiate from there, and then sometimes they'll bring you on for like a week, and so you have a weekly rate. Sometimes it might be a longer project. Sometimes you might just go in and just do like producing for like the day for them, just to be a body there for them.
To like a help, like you said, like
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say like it depends on who is hiring you. Like if a company is coming to me and they're saying, "Hey, Thomas, can you run the production?" Like I have a company called Kings and Queens Productions
Mhm.
where we can operate as a production company, but it's just me and my LLC just to cover my cost. But if they come to me, they don't need to know how much I'm making per day.
Right.
They just need to know the larger bucket of like, hey, this is going to cost you $70,000. And that way I can make as little as I unfortunately make, or I can make more. A percentage wise, I like to look at if me as a producer can make 10% on a job, it's a success. Like if it's $100,000 job, if I make 10 grand on that job, awesome. But like you said, there is a line item like industry standard of whether it's $750 a day or $900 a day, depending on your experience level. Those are kind of like the two bottom to top, what you're going to average out. TV is very different. You have, we had this discussion a little earlier, like sometimes TV shows will be very low paying, but because they shoot all the time and it's every single day, a producer's rate may be $650 a day or $550 a day sometimes. And that's just because you're shooting probably for, TV shows are 5 days a week for sometimes 8 months in a row. And it's just like you're guaranteed $75,000 probably, as opposed to a film where you're like, all right, we're shooting for 18 days. We have 45 days of post-production and probably 30 days of pre-production. I don't know how to charge for all of that because I'm maybe working an hour a day or maybe working 13 hours a day. And so
Right.
sometimes you do a project cost of 30 grand or I don't know whatever the number it is. But roughly I like to look at like, all right, if a project is $100,000, if I as a producer can make 10 grand on this job, it's a success for me. And that number obviously can fluctuate up and down a little bit. But that 10% number kind of like fits that. If it's a $100,000 job, you're probably filming for 2 days for a commercial, and you probably have 2 weeks, if not 4 weeks of post, and probably 2 to 3 weeks of pre-production. So you're averaging about, let's just say, 12 full days of work, 10-hour days of work. If you're $1,000 a day, roughly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
But a big thing too, and this goes for any position, not just producing, you have to advocate for yourself.
Right.
Somebody's going to come into you and they're going to try to talk to you. You have to be able to say, here's my rate. If that's not something that can work, I can always give you recommendations for other people.
Yep.
Because this industry, as I'm sure we all know, will take advantage of you, regardless of what position you are in. If you're a PA all the way to, if you are the line producer, there is still somebody in this industry that will try to take advantage of you if you let them. So advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
You're the only person that will. You're the only person that's
Yeah.
guaranteed to every single time.
It's also why you don't burn bridges, because you're gonna get.
The industry is very
Well,
small.
yeah.
know-
Yeah, especially.
It's
yeah.
simultaneously.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
simultaneously one of the largest industries when you think about it,
Yeah.
just monetarily, but also so small.
Reputation goes a long way in
Mhm.
this industry. Like I said at the very beginning, it's about who you know. I'll get calls because 3 other producers said they're out of town, and all 3 of them recommended me, and so I'll be recommended for the job, and I'll be on that job. And then the next time I'll be the first one they go to instead of everybody else. But a lot of that is because you have reputation, and that goes across like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, all over like the United States. And so how you carry yourself and how you present yourself don't do shady deals. Like you don't want to hide money in a budget. You don't want to like be scummy and like, oh, I want to make 13% on this job, so I'm gonna pay this PA less money than you should because I want to make more. Some producers do that, and that's not cool.
That's why I strike.
Yeah, like it's why like this industry is in the industry that it is, or the state that it is. So having like a good conscience and a good like morality to you, of hey, I know you're $650 a day. That's what you told me you are. I want to make that happen, but if you can do $600 a day and I'll give you a hot meal every single night, would that be okay? Having that conversation too, like people are willing to work with you on budget, especially if you honor them and like say, hey, we'd love to do this. Next project I'll get you for $650, I guarantee you. But this one we're a bit tight on budget too. So like having those conversations as well and being cognizant of I want to hire my friends all the time. And sometimes that's at a lower rate, but like if I hire at a lower rate, if I get a big job, like you're the first one I'm calling, and you're gonna get like your actual like rate plus some. I had a buddy of mine who's an up and coming DP, and I've shot with him for a little while, and I was like, hey dude, I got a big break for you. I can give you a director DP role for like $2,500 a day, and he was like, I'll drop everything I have to do that job.
Yeah.
Just because like we worked on for 2 or 3 years on the small paying jobs in an agency at a production company, like very low pay for crappy situations. And I was like, hey, I've known you for a while. You've gone through it and you're hustling. I have an opportunity to pay you more. I could go with a big time director / DP who gets paid $2,500 a day. He's worth it. Or I can pay you and I know you're good, just as good, and you're gonna kill this project. So like I would rather pay you than somebody else. And so and they really like they appreciate that so much too. So
That's the real reason you get into producing is you hire all your friends that you accidentally paid like $50 a day for 3 years. Anytime you did one of your like smaller budget like passion projects, you get into producing so I can be like, hey, sorry for all those really shitty deals. Here's a lot of money once. That's all you do. That's all you do.
Yeah, I think being the transparent about budget and like talking to people, because like a lot of people I hired too, I just worked on this one thing and it was a smaller budget, but it was weird. It was just like they're trying to cut rates kind of right now, which is really interesting too. But it's really strange. It's like every shoot that I've been on the last like few months have been $50 less for every role. And you don't think that's a long way, but it is. Like, it is a lot. So it's like the people I reach out to, I'm like, I promise you, I'm trying to do everything to get you all the money I can, but this is what I have in my budget. And I'm like, I'm going to see if I can get you like a higher kit fee or something like this. So you try to make it up where you can, but it's just like, I mean, I tell them too, sometimes I'm like, I'm really embarrassed I'm even asking you to do this for this rate but this is what I have. But like, I think they'll do you favors sometimes, and sometimes they are like, nah, it's just too low. I just can't do it.
Two things. One, I have heard, or I did a poll a while back saying, would you rather work for less to have more people on crew so it's easier? And most people said yes. I'd rather have more people on set and work for less. But that was just thought. The other thing is, I wanted to ask you more about how do you produce a documentary when you don't know?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty
All
so I got brought on like last minute for it basically, and it was kind of scripted and it wasn't scripted. It was really interesting, so he was very organic about it. So I just really had to help with locations and help with the call sheets, and it was just all of the same stuff that you normally do. And
How do you plan your schedule for the day?
Yeah.
it's really difficult sometimes.
I can imagine. Yeah.
We're planning the schedule, you're on a 12-hour day, so we're sitting there doing the call sheet at like 9 p.m. and we're like, is this sunrise? Like, are people gonna do this? You know what I mean? And it's because he had all of his scenes and stuff, and then we would just like try to schedule them out, and then we'd be finding locations like the day before kind of, and just it goes back to connections. I met a lot of people in Asheville this way actually, and I just started reaching out to people and texting them and like trying to like find houses to film at. But it really was all the same things that I have done before. So like I don't know as far as like
Just
if
like
in
a
a
more
movie.
like high pressure, like stress environment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for less money.
It
For
sounds like it
less
all
money.
comes down to money.
Yeah.
There is fun things about it,
Yeah.
but money is a large factor to it.
Yeah.
The finances.
You get to know everything, which is
Yeah.
It's great.
that's the fun part about it.
It really is.
I want to speak on that first question because it is a weird balance, like, of more people, because like many hands like create
Yeah.
light work. That's very, very true. But also like too many cooks in the kitchen is also not good either.
Yeah.
And so there is this like sweet spot, and
Yeah.
Like-
some of that depends on the creative and like
Mhm.
what the idea is. Some of it depends on like, I would say like honestly like the scope of the project. So like if I'm filming a project like in a studio that's in a controlled setting, I don't need 45 people on set.
Mhm.
I need like 5. And so I'd rather pay a really good technician that knows how to work a green screen and knows how to work studio sound and knows how to work hair and makeup and knows how to, I don't know, whatever, name like 5 or 6 things.
Right.
I would rather have the best people in that particular location
Mhm.
than having like a bunch of my cool friends that are like all want to be on set. When you're in a small, like let's just say we're filming back there, I don't need 30 people in that small room back there.
Right.
That'd be awful. We would all hate that. But like having 3 people back there could be really, really fun.
Mhm.
You know. So yeah, this is balance. That again,
Yeah.
it's there's a term I like to say. How long is a piece of string? It's like, well, there needs to be parameters around like what we're doing. Like there's not one answer for everything when it comes to making a video or a film or a commercial. It's all like dependent on like a string could be 1 inch or a yard. So a video could be or something that's super simple or super complex. So we may need 2 people or we may need 30 people. Yeah, so there's not one cut and dry answer in there.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
I feel like that
mean-
was this whole conversation.
Yeah. This
Up in the
this
air.
entire producer thing has kind of been like, we don't know.
What is it? I think it was on Jimmy Kimmel, and no, it wasn't Jimmy Kimmel. It was another late show host, but his associate producer. He was like, "What do you do?" And there's like this 3-minute video of him just like going to ask him, his associate producer. He's like, "Well, I do like this and this and this and this," and then he's like, "Then sometimes I do the recycling." Like it's basically he's not clear on what he does.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's like everything.
Mhm.
There's not one thing we do, and there's not one. The one thing we know we have to do is like we have to have a call sheet out. Like that's standard.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're lucky, you'll have like a coordinator that does it for you.
Or, AD team.
Yeah, right, exactly. But it's just not one thing.
Yeah.
It's
It
not a
seems
clear
to me
answer.
that what I'm hearing is that one, you've got to really know yourself
Mm.
and believe in your ability and
Mhm.
advocate because of that, and then know how to take all of it and balance it. And it really is
Yeah.
kind of a juggling act, depending.
Yeah, I would say
it's a moving
confidence is,
target.
yeah, confidence is really key.
Mhm.
There's a certain characteristic type of producers. Sometimes they come across as hard asses that don't want to take any shit from people. Or it's the like, oh, I'm confident in who I am and what I'm doing.
And a balance.
There's a balance in that because sometimes you need to be that stern person on set because shit needs to get done.
Mhm.
And yeah,
And
yeah.
therapist and a mediator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's why my rate is so high.
Yeah.
My therapist, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to
Um,
pay for the therapist
for
that
therapy,
I
yeah.
tell about everybody else's problems. Not even my own. I don't even
Any
get there.
last question from anybody?
I had a lot of questions, but I have one more. I am curious, have you had projects where you brought people in and you're like, I don't need these people, right? You have to do all that kind of fun stuff? Yeah, sounds like yes.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, I've fired some people on set because they were bad at their job.
Right.
It's more frustrating on the back end of like, oh, I could have saved money.
Mhm.
There was a job I did recently, probably like 18 months ago. I guess it's still recent. This year's been weird. It went by
Just
fast, but also
weird,
very
yeah.
slow. So like, it still feels like last year was last week.
Mm-hmm.
But we had like a decent amount of money. And so we went to Florida to shoot on a beach that we couldn't be in the water for, but we were on the sand. And I was like, why did we go to Florida? Why couldn't we go to
Yeah.
like
Anywhere
Wilmington?
else?
anywhere else like that
Literally
had
anywhere.
sand.
Yeah.
But it's just
Lake
because
Lure.
they had they had money that they wanted to spend, and they wanted to be. Unfortunately, the client wanted to be down in
That's
Florida.
usually what it is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
One
so
big fan.
that's more frustrating on the back end of it. Like I haven't been on set where like, oh, I don't need 30 people.
More like, why are we here?
More it's like, why? Because like
Why did I spend this much?
that's so many hotels, and
Yeah.
that's so many like
Yeah.
per diem is super high when you're down in Florida too. Like this cost of living there, so dinner's gonna be more expensive. All of those things, I'm like, oh, this is because you wanted to be in Florida. Now cost me now 10 grand more on this job when we could have saved 10 grand to go
Oh, yeah.
somewhere cheaper.
That's it. Going to Florida and having to put people in hotels, I'm surprised it was only 10 grand. With
Oh no,
everything.
no.
Oh,
no.
oh, that's what I was like, wow.
No.
10 grand, you
No,
must have gone.
hotels
winter.
were only like, yeah. We could have saved a lot of money by just going somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And you have to hire cops in Florida. Like it's
Dude.
filming in North Carolina is very easy compared to like other places. Like Miami, you have to have I don't know however many cops. Like it's one cop per like 10 people
Mhm.
or something.
Really?
It's
was-
something crazy.
Yeah, it was really annoying.
Yeah. South Carolina is also another really
Yeah.
great place to film. Greer, I called the film commissioner, was like, hey, we're going to be shooting a commercial here. What paperwork, what stuff? And they're like, you're shooting in Greer? That's
Do
interesting.
you want the key to the city?
Yeah, straight up, they were like, that's cool.
Yeah.
You can just have it.
Yeah.
Like, just show up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I shoot in Greer every time I can because like shooting in Greenville is like you got to permit this, you got to permit
Yeah.
that, and then we submit the permits and they're like, nah, you still can't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And then you go
Or-
to Greer and they're like, just put a sign up.
We didn't even get that.
Put a sign up.
Yeah.
You have a traffic cone?